Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar, of course, with your hosts, as usual, myself, Rory Petrie, and Mark Broadhurst in Nuremberg, of course. And we are delighted to be joined by Josh from JJD TV. Welcome, Josh. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Excited to be here and excited to talk with you guys again. It's been a while.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, well, it's been a while, and obviously during that time, your channel's been doing fantastic work, been growing and growing. Just in case anyone that's watching this video hasn't subscribed to Josh's channel, make sure you go over to JJD TV. Just search for it in YouTube or go find him on Twitter. Again, just search JJD TV and you will find him. Josh obviously has a Dortmund fan channel on the go. He does lots of work with the club in general, and they're going from strength to strength. So we're very happy to have Josh back, friend of the show. And before we go into the details of today's show, this show is, of course, in partnership with Bundesliga Boxes. So you'll see Mark and myself showing off our fantastic Bundesliga boxes, our Tasmania Berlin shirts, and Paderborn. I think that's Paderborn away, isn't it, Mark?
It is indeed.
So, yeah, the fantastic Bundesliga boxes we're working with this season. So go check them out on Twitter or search them. Obviously, if you want to find out what they're all about, they provide mystery, authentic German football shirts. So obviously, if you want to go find them out, obviously the best bit is about that kind of mystery element. So you never know what shirt you're going to get. You can also add in what t-shirts you already have. So I've got quite a few now, so I can just put in what ones I don't want, and they will accommodate that. So a fantastic brand, and we're really happy to have them on board. But enough of the introductions, enough of all that. We're happy to get going into this transfer special. So we're looking at all the business basically done so far. Obviously, we're doing this live. With still a couple of weeks to go until the season starts, and even before the transfer window ends. So business may well be done after this video goes out. But so we're going to start with a bit of a Dortmund review, because that's why we've got Josh in the show, obviously, to concentrate on them. We'll then move on to the rest of the top four, do some Q&A, and if we have time, we'll try and sneak in some best of the rest regarding other teams who may have done well or have not recruited so well. So, Josh, I think there's probably only one place to start with regards to outgoings at the club. Obviously, that is, of course, Jadon Sancho leaving Dortmund and leaving the Bundesliga. So, obviously, as a Bundesliga show, we're obviously really good to see him depart the club. First off, your thoughts and feelings about it, and then maybe if you saw it coming this season or possibly in the last few seasons.
Yeah. Obviously, sucks. I mean, Jadon Sancho was an incredible player, and seeing him come to this club all those years ago and develop into the player that he's become now is just fascinating, because I got to watch him along the way. Came in, young kid, didn't know much about him, took on that number 7 kit, showed his confidence, came in, first couple of touches he had were just incredible, and I was like, okay, well, maybe there's a little baller in here. Maybe we do have that Dembele replacement at a bit of a risk versus reward type signing, which is something Dortmund are obviously known for doing, investing in youth, hoping that they work out, and then sometimes obviously selling on for a ton of money, and that's exactly what happened. The fact that he's English, it's a good opportunity and a good, I guess, I don't know. You see it coming. I didn't go under the assumption that he was going to be here for the rest of his career. It was unfortunate to see him move on already, but I think with the amount of the numbers he's put up, it was almost unprecedented. It was ridiculous. The one year he put up 17 goals, 16 assists. He had a slow start to this last coming season, and then obviously took it back up. And it's just been, unbelievably impressive, which is the reason why Manchester United came in to spend the big bucks. And it is what it is. I'm sad, but I saw it coming, and we have to move on and go from there.
Are you happy with the money that you received for him, considering the valuations, obviously, based on last season that were floating around? Obviously, that's dropped a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, Dortmund doesn't usually go through a deal that is bad for the club. So, I mean, I don't know, obviously, the insides out, but when it comes to selling a player, and a lot of times comes to buying a player, they're usually pretty spot on.
Yeah.
You saw it last year. I mean, the market changes. Yes, we could have got 120, for example, last year, but COVID and all other kind of factors come into play. If Dortmund felt last year that the 120 wasn't a fair value, or the 100 that Man United offered wasn't a fair evaluation of their 120, that's how they saw it. And this year they obviously said, all right, well, he wants to go. And a lot of the times Dortmund, when they make a signing like that, have that gentleman's agreement. I'm going to bring you in here. I'm going to give you an opportunity to thrive. And if a respectable offer comes in, we will take it because that's part of the agreement. And I think that Dortmund's like, you know what? It's a fair offer. He wants to go. He wants to go back to England. We're going to take it. And Jadon Sancho was nothing but a good servant to the club and went out with good terms.
Good stuff. And then, obviously, other than Sancho, do you want to maybe just talk us through a couple of other outgoings? There's not been any, obviously, other than Sancho, big name players. We've seen Piszczek and Smeltzer moving on, obviously, different kind of reasons behind them, I guess. So I guess that's a good point not to see too many other players going right now.
Yeah, and Smeltzer did sign an extension, so he is going to stay for another year. I feel like with the injuries, I mean, I still don't know how much he's going to play. Yeah. But I'm assuming because he was out for so long and Piszczek actually came back into form, it wasn't really the farewell I think he deserved and the fans wanted to see. So Piszczek had an unbelievable farewell. He went out with a pokal. He was a vital player to the end of our season in that right back position. So seeing him leave sucks because Murray is now injured for the entirety of the season. That leaves us with Meunier, who Dortmund fans aren't crazy about and has questionable performances. Paslak, again, Dortmund fans aren't crazy about. He's not really at the Borussia Dortmund starting right back level, but he is an option in a very depleted squad at the right back. And then, of course, Emre Can, who can slide out there, who's not a natural right back. So Piszczek leaving hurts, especially because I don't think we're going to replace him. And then, like I said, Schmelzer is playing, but I don't think you're going to see many minutes from him.
Good stuff. Mark, do you want to ask Josh a little bit about the players that have come into the club?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the kind of big replacement for Sancho is Marlon. Like, I just want to know from a Dortmund perspective, like, how do you feel about that replacement? Because from what I've seen of him, I've always liked him. I watched him in the Euros, and I thought he was really good. Like, obviously, he didn't play every game, but from what I saw of him, he looked quality. Like, are you and the Dortmund fans happy with him?
Yeah, it's nice to have a hyped up signing for Dortmund, and a lot of the fans were really excited on Twitter. He was buzzing around. There were still question marks because he's not a like-for-like Sancho replacement, but Marco Rose is not a like-for-like manager like Terzic was. Dortmund were used to playing in that last season, the 4-3-2-1, because we lacked wingers last year with Sancho, so we had to switch into a 4-3-2-1. And now without Sancho, it's really hard for Marco Rose to pull off playing in a 4-2-3-1 if we're not willing to invest in wingers. He's also known for playing his 4-1-2-1-2, which is, I think, a big reason why Malen has come in. He can also play a 3-4-1-2. So there's two big formations that really fit the personnel we have. So Malen coming in gives us a very different outlook. I don't remember the last time going into a season where I wasn't expecting us to play a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. That's a very typical formation for Dortmund. And now to see it completely change into a 4-1-2-1-2 is interesting. So I'm going to be very curious to see what he looks like beside Haaland. He's played at a dual strikership before at PSV. He's also been able to play it on the wings. So if we do go that route, we still have Hazard, Canal, players like that. But there will be some question marks. But my assumption is that it'll be a 4-1-2-1-2 to start the season, and we'll see him as a dual striker.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, much documented at Borussia Dortmund have been the goalkeeper problems that you've had for probably, 2 or 3 years now, really. Yeah. Obviously, with Burki and Hitz making a bit of a mess up last season, really. Obviously, you have made a big money replacement for them with Gregory Kobel from Stuttgart. What do you and Dortmund fans make of that transfer?
I mean, it's funny the way Twitter works. I mean, they weren't excited. They weren't as excited for Kobel as they were for Malen until he was signed, and then it's like everyone jumps on. But most of the tweets, and most of the people who are reaching out to me, it's because Mike Maignan was on the market, an excellent keeper from Lille. He did amazing things there. That was a very impressive season for Lille. He's a good keeper. He's a French international. He was a keeper that a lot of Dortmund fans thought we'd go for. And he ended up being sold for a very realistic transfer fee. It was something that Dortmund could have done if they wanted to. But I always found when it comes to Dortmund, you have to be able to be realistic in terms of little things about the club. So when people are going around saying, why isn't Pochettino a manager? Why isn't he an option? And in certain positions, and like a manager and a keeper, Dortmund like the German language. That's a position that they wanted. So I was very surprised to see that like names like Menyon were even mentioned. Dragowski was mentioned as well. I didn't see them happening. I felt like it'd be some type of player who could speak German, and that's exactly what it was. As soon as it happened, a lot of people were speaking out about Kobel, and I think the mood changed once they realized, okay, well, Menyon maybe was never even really an option. Dragowski was never an option. This is the reason we're going for Kobel. They started looking into highlights, looking into this, looking into that, and then the mood changed. And he seems like a good young keeper. He's got a lot to prove. This is a level to do it, and I think there will be a little bit of pressure on him, but it looks like he's up to the job.
I think he'll be a fantastic signing personally. As a VfB Stuttgart sympathiser, I was going to see him go out the door, but I think Dortmund have got a quality keeper there. And staying at the back end of the team, probably hasn't been as much movement inwards towards the club as maybe Dortmund fans would like. Josh, obviously, there's been plenty of rumours about Lacroix. I think St. Just as well has been linked with Dortmund. Maybe which one would you pick out of those two, and how confident are you of Dortmund going back into the market for a defender or two?
Well, again, being a very, very realist man in terms of the way I follow Dortmund, Lacroix clearly is the superior pick. We'll never sign him though. We're so far out of budget. It's not even really worth talking. Even though there were links at some point, but he won't be an option for us just simply because of the price tag. Even though he's a very highly rated center back, he'd be a perfect option. But St. Just isn't far off. I think something that Dortmund's been missing for years is pace. I think the fact that Guerrero, unbelievable fullback, lacks a little bit of pace. Hummels is definitely slowing down in the middle of the center back position. We knew it's part of his game. And I even thought wingers. I mean, Jadon Sancho was very fast with the ball at his feet, but he's not like a blistering pace. He's not like a Diaby. He's not like a Bailey. So I wanted to see pace get injected into this team. Mullen brought that up front. Whether we sign a winger or we don't, Mullen did bring in pace. St. Just is a very pacey center back. He can play out on the outside back three. He can play in back four. From time to time, he could be useful as a right back, which, lo and behold, is a position we definitely need. But the rumors have calmed down, and it doesn't look like Dortmund are willing to spend the 15 mil, and it's mainly because Mainz don't want to sell. So they basically are looking to price him out, which then left really no options besides looking internally. And if through preseason, every single game has been pretty much had a partnership duo of Papadopoulos and Maloney, who have performed very, very well. So to me, it's looking like right now, because the Demiral loan rumors have kind of washed out. It looks like he's going to go to Atalanta on a $5 million loan, option to buy, which would have been a good look for Dortmund, but obviously chose against it. So yeah, it doesn't look like right now any money is going to be put in at the back. It just simply looks like they're going to go for Papadopoulos and Maloney and do that risk versus reward thing. Hopefully they come good and can maybe spend money elsewhere for a winger, maybe a fullback. I don't know, but right now rumors are very calm and there's no real center back being linked at the moment.
Yeah, it does seem like quite a lot of chat has cooled around the club, to be honest. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks. Might even be a reactive situation if injuries occur. But as you mentioned, the club finances may also be a stumbling block there. So interesting stuff. We'll probably get back into some more Dortmund-related questions when we go on to our transfer Q&A, because we've got lots coming in on the live chat. Thank you, everyone who is on the video right now. We'll get on to some of those. We've got some already asked questions from Twitter, so we'll come on to those. But just before we do, we'll just move on to a bit of a review of how the rest of last season's top four have done business-wise so far. So we'll just start with last season's champions. So Bayern Munich, obviously we won't want to ask Josh too many questions on Bayern. So I'm sure he wouldn't want to be too keenly following them. But obviously they've made one marquee signing in the shape of Upamecano. They've brought in a young lad from Reading in the shape of Omar Richards. But they've also lost a lot of experience. So, Josh, I mean, other than Upamecano, obviously that's bringing in a top-class centre-back. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in. But otherwise, I mean, under new management as well, it could be interesting to see how Bayern react or maybe even start the season.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like they're in a little worse shape this year than last year. I mean, for a few reasons. I mean, Bayern are Bayern. They're going to compete no matter you like it or you don't. But I think this Bundesliga season is wide open given the fact that Hansi Flick has moved on. He's an incredible manager, and he's a manager who played a very simple type formation. He played the 4-2-3-1, and he played it very consistently throughout the course of the season. He knew exactly what each player brought to each position, and it worked very well. Nagelsmann, not so much. Nagelsmann is a very different manager. He loves tampering with his formations. He loves just showing why he's that young tactical magician that he is. So I think if he goes in here with, and I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying if he may go in there and decides to roll in different positions and try to really make his stamp on the team, it could rub players the wrong way. It could force them out of position. It could do a whole bunch of other things. It's not a guarantee, but he's not as strong as a manager as Flick is. That's a fact. He's still a great young manager. They spent a lot of money on him, but there will be a lot of question marks and a lot of pressure on a very, very young manager. On top of that, like you said, the old guards of the team, Alba's gone, Boateng's gone, Martinez is gone. So a lot of quality has walked out of the door with Upamecano coming in, yes, but there's still been question marks about him. I watched Holland bully him 3 games in a row for Bayern or for Dortmund last year. So it's not a for sure thing that he's going to slide right in, and in my opinion, he's struggled a touch in preseason right now. So if Nagelsmann can't figure a way to get his team playing the way he wants to, and some adversity comes up, he may not hit the ground running, and that's an opportunity for Dortmund to capitalize.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Like I said, we won't go too much in depth there. Moving on swiftly then, we'll look at RB Leipzig. Obviously not the most popular club in Germany. However, I have to say I'm a big fan of what they've done in the market so far. So just to kind of summarize a little bit, they've made the Angelino deal a permanent one, which I think was pretty common knowledge that was going to happen. They've brought in a young centre-back, Josko Gvardiol from Zagreb. He's a young centre-back who looks quite promising at 18 years old. And, of course, a certain Andre Silva from Eintracht Frankfurt. So, in terms of the business coming in to RB, that looks really exciting for me. The obvious thing to touch on with regards to outgoings is losing their 2 centre-backs in the shape of Upamecano, 2 close rivals Bayern and Konate to Liverpool. So it's a bit of you're strengthening at the top end, but maybe the back end of that RB side, who was so solid last season. Because I think they conceded the fewest amount of goals, or second fewest last season. So that could be really interesting. It could be a flip on the way they played, maybe a bit more attacking this season. So, Josh, do you think Silva will settle in, and any other kind of thoughts on RB?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very torn on how I think Leipzig will do. I mean, I think they're going to finish 3rd, but I feel like there's going to be a bit of a distance between Dortmund and Bayern. That's just my personal opinion. It comes from Jesse Marsch. I think Jesse Marsch is a very talented young manager, but again, similar with Nagelsmann going into Flick, it's the same way Marsch going into Nagelsmann. Jesse Marsch plays a 4-4-2. It's a very RB thing to do. Nagelsmann, not so much. Like I said, he was all over the place with his formations. His team is used to be playing in 3-4 different positions. Now I'm just curious to see what Jesse Marsch can do when he plays that 4-4-2 and what he will do if it doesn't work out. Because Nagelsmann, when he got points, was very good at adapting to different teams, playing different formations. He's got the personnel to do so. But I'm not sure if Jesse Marsch can do that yet. I do think he's a talented young manager, but this is the first American kind of managing at this level. I know that there's obviously a few who've managed in top 5 leagues, but this is probably the biggest club I'd say an American manager has taken on, and he's got a lot to prove. So that's a reason why I think, depending on how Marsch hits it, he may struggle from time to time. Obviously, losing the 2 center backs hurts. I don't think they properly replaced. There's rumors that Lacroix was going to maybe come in, and if he did, I think that would change it. But the wild card is Andre Silva. You bring in someone who was like, Leipzig was so good last year under Nagelsmann. If he had Andre Silva last year, he could have really challenged, because they did not have someone who could put the ball in the back of the net. Silva is also used to playing in a 4-4-2. He did it at Porto. He's done it from time to time. Did it with Frankfurt. So now if you can find Poulsen, you can find Sorloth to have a little bit of consistency alongside Andre Silva with the distribution around him, he is going to be the difference maker. He's going to be the reason why Leipzig may be able to compete, because he's an excellent striker, and I rate them, and that was an excellent signing at 21 mil.
Yeah.
Serious money. Mark, do you want to just quickly cover Wolfsburg and ask Josh a few questions on them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Wolfsburg doing really, really well to get into the top four last year, but obviously they have also done some business. I think probably the main thing about Wolfsburg is the fact they haven't lost any key players. The only player of note really that's gone is Felix Kraus, who's joined Fortuna Dusseldorf, but I don't think they're going to be missing him too much. But I think obviously in regard to the incomings, like they brought in a few good players. I think obviously Sebastian Bernau is a really good signing. The fullback from FC Cologne, he was probably Cologne's best player last season. So I think, yeah, that's a pretty good signing. I mean, obviously Nemecha as well. I mean, some of you guys might not know too much about the Nemecha brothers, who they are actually kind of German guys as well as British nationals as well. They've got dual citizenship, but two forwards, they're both coming in from Manchester City as well. One's a centre forward and one's an attacking midfielder. I mean, Rory, what do you think about, Josh, what do you think about the signing of them? Because, I mean, they seem to be really quite interesting signings for Wolfsburg. Do you know much about them or?
Yeah, I mean, coming off of the German European Championship that they did, they're excellent signings. I think Wolfsburg, in terms of the transfer side of things, excellent. Like you said, kept their biggest players. If they can keep Weghorst, then I think they are in good shape. They brought in some key areas just to simply add some depth and strengthen the squad all around. I think Wolfsburg's going into the season with, in my opinion, in a better position than they were last year. However, one huge question mark goes around Mark van Bommel. I'm not convinced he's not an upgrade. He's not an upgrade whatsoever on Oliver Glasner. He's not, and I don't know what he's going to do at this level. He's had an okay spell at PSV, and then I think he's coming from being the assistant manager at the UAE for the National. So not really the profile you're expecting to come in here and take Wolfsburg. So I have some question marks. Now, when I did my predictions earlier, I think I had Wolfsburg a little bit like a sixth place finish. They added some players around that, so I do still think they're going to be around probably that 5th to 6th spot, maybe competing for 4. It'll all depend on what Mark van Bommel can do. And that's what makes the Bundesliga so beautiful this year, is that 7 of the top 8 teams of last year have new managers. And this one, in my opinion, was probably the biggest wild card. I wasn't expecting him to come into Wolfsburg.
Yeah, I think that must mean then that Union are going to win the Bundesliga.
I hope so.
Changed. Interesting stuff. Yeah. So what we're going to do is now, what will please all our viewers, we'll go on to a bit of a Q&A with regards to our transfer. So I'll just bring them up on my phone. We've got obviously a few in our live chat already. So I'll play devil's advocate and I'll throw them at Josh or Mark. I might even field 1 or 2 myself. So we'll start off with one directed at Josh from Glasgow Borussen on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that Glasgow Borussen follows you very closely, Josh. And he has asked, I'm optimistic about a title challenge from Dortmund this season and feel we can push Bayern further, but would prefer more strength in depth in defence. Do you think this group of players has got what it takes, and which defensive positions would you like new signings for?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that we can compete as well. The things I don't like and the big question marks around Dortmund this year is the fact that I don't think we're giving Marco Rose the exact tools he needs to go forward. That doesn't mean it's going to work, because if he's able to make the 4-1-2-1-2 and the 3-4-1-2 work, then great. That's 2 formations he can play with through the course of the season. But he's used to playing with wingers. He did it at Gladbach, and he came out the rest of the last season finding a little bit of consistency playing that formation, and he used it quite a bit going forward when they ended up reaching the Champions League. Now, winger is a desperate position that we need that we may not address. We've decided maybe against signing a center back, signing a right back. So there are a lot of question marks that I think is going to make the job very challenging for Marco Rose. But if it was me being somewhat realistic of what Dortmund could potentially do, I would look to find a way to get Nico Schultz sold. I would find a way to get Berkey out of the club, and I would find a way to probably sell Delaney, because you need a little bit of money. The 2 expendable players that will bring in any type of transfer fee will be Delaney or Brandt. Brandt wants to stay. He's made that very apparent. Delaney maybe does not, just because he wants game time. Yeah. And that's a very depth position we have with some youngsters that could come in and just be natural replacements without having to spend money. I would then... And Dortmund made it very apparent. Dortmund's made sure it's known that Berkey and Schultz are free to leave if the right bid comes in, which it has not. So if they're able to shift those players out and get some wages free, get some money coming in, then signing someone like Halsenberg would be ideal because it would be someone to replace Nico Schultz when needed as a backup left back for Guerrero, can give them an alternative, and can also play as a center back, which two birds, one stone. And then I would try to bring in a winger, some type of winger, some way, shape, or form. If you can get a loan deal, if you could get the money together through those sales. Those are the two biggest positions because I just, truthfully, as much as Dortmund fans don't want to hear it, they're not going to sign a right back. They're banking on the fact that Meunier had an average-ish Euros. That's their excuse. They have Pasak, they have Chan. So that's what I would do. If I could get two more signings in, it would be some type of winger and Halsenberg.
Interesting stuff. Staying on the Dortmund theme, I'll go with one more for Josh. This from one of my friends, Adam Smith. He has asked whether Milan will be able to hit the ground running and get amongst the goals straight away, obviously owing to the pressure of the goals and assists that Sancho would have provided. So basically, will he be able to cope with the pressure and will he hit the ground running?
I think that he's going to be playing in a system that'll work for him. If it is the 4-1-2-1-2, he's very familiar, very comfortable playing in a front two, which I think would be nice for his transition. He's playing along better players. I mean, and so it's going to be seeing how it's going to be with Erling Haaland yelling at him beside him because Haaland's already made a joke being like, you need to get me the ball. That is a duo. That is a partnership we're creating here. I'm not expecting Malen to go in there and put up even 15 to 20 goals. I think a good season for him would be able just to play his mark, do a job, and get somewhere between 10 goals, 5 assists, something along those lines is a good goal contribution and just build his way in. But I think when Haaland's on the pitch, it's hard to think that maybe Malen will score 20 plus 2 when you know Haaland will hopefully be pushing 30.
Good stuff. We'll go to one of the questions that came in the live chat. So let me just pick out one that I can ask both of you. Let's go for Gary Jones. So Gary asked, which signing has excited you guys the most so far? I'll start with you, Mark. So who's excited you the most? Then Josh, you can answer the same question.
Yeah, I think for me, it's got to be Andre Silva for Leipzig. Like, I think it's a bit of a kind of no-brainer, really, for me. I'm a massive fan of Andre Silva. Obviously, we talked about him a lot on the show last year. I just think he fits perfectly for what Leipzig needed. I think, as Josh said earlier, like they couldn't score. They were missing so many chances last year. Obviously, Sorloth just didn't do the business at all, did he? And I think Andre Silva, he was born to play in the Bundesliga. I think he's great in the air. Like he scores so many goals through headers as well. And I just think he's going to lead that line and play the number 9 role really, really well for Leipzig this year. And I just think, I actually think Leipzig are going to have a really good season ahead of them, personally.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, Josh, same question.
Yeah, I do one of each, and they're both kind of obvious. I mean, Dortmund signing, it's Malen. I mean, there's no one really else. I am very curious to see how Kobel does, but I am excited to genuinely see how Malen does beside Haaland. And then outside, even though, like you mentioned earlier, Leipzig aren't the favorite team in the Bundesliga, but I am excited to see what Andre Silva does because, like Mark is saying, I do rate him a lot. I think he's a great striker, and to have the distribution around him that he's going to have at Leipzig is going to be fun. And if they can figure out a way to get him the ball, it's going to go in the back of the net. It is simple math, and I think he's exactly the type of player that Leipzig needed. And it was just a lot of fun watching him at Frankfurt last year. I almost wanted him to stay at Frankfurt just because you'll get it back. But sometimes moving club to club can do question mark. But I think like Mark said, it's a no-brainer. Andre Silva's probably in for a good year.
Good stuff. We've got lots of questions along the lines of who's done the worst business, who's done the best. Before we do that, we'll do one more. We'll do one more Dortmund question. This is coming from OC11 on Twitter. I think he is on the live chat as well, so welcome. He has asked Josh, because pretty sure he's a Dortmund fan. Josh, do you think Dortmund should get Saint Etienne youngster Lucas Gorna-Duath? He's been linked with BVB, Atalanta, and Chelsea. So, Josh, your thoughts on that one?
Potentially. I mean, it all depends. When it comes to a Dortmund transfer rumor, and targets, it has to be spot on. It has to be picture perfect. So if Dortmund can find a transfer fee that's realistic, if they think that there's an opportunity for the player to get the minutes that he may want and the club is willing to give out, then there's no reason to go for youngsters. There is a good reason to go for youngsters because it's what Dortmund are known for doing. But if this kid is not ready to come up and maybe play a backup role, because I don't see him really touching the starting 11 quite yet, then maybe we sign him and loan him back. But then again, it's money. It's all kinds of different things. I think it's someone to keep an eye on and maybe have a conversation. But it's hard for me to put in a for sure predicament, because I'm genuinely surprised at what this window will end up spitting out, because Dortmund do need to sign a couple more players, and I can't tell you which positions it will be. It could be a winger, it could be a center back. They may make every fan in the world happy and toss in a right back, but he's not someone who's top of my list. Let's just say that.
Interesting stuff. Well, thank you for the question anyway. Then on to a more generic one from John Fleming. So John, thanks for your question. It is, which player is looking like the biggest bargain of the transfer window? Personally speaking, I think there's been quite a lot of good bargain and quite a lot of good deals. I'll let you two go first because I've got one in mind. It'll probably get stolen, so I'll probably regret going last. But Mark, you go first. Who's been the biggest bargain so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the business that Union Berlin have done is really good, actually. I think, obviously, Taiwo Awoniyi, I mean, I think he was really, really good last season. To pick him up for 6 million. I mean, obviously, for a club like Union Berlin, it's quite a big outlay. But, I mean, obviously, by, like, modern football standards, it's peanuts, really, isn't it? I mean, obviously, I think he could be a good sign. I think he got 7 or 8 league goals despite only starting around half of the games last season. So I think he could be a good signing. I think, again, obviously, Silva, again, is always going to be a bargain, isn't he? At 25 million euros. I mean, that's a steal for me. For me, he's worth roughly double that, to be honest, in the modern day market. I mean, I don't know what Frankfurt were thinking, really letting him go for that kind of money. I think, obviously, Bore as well. I mean, they got him from a free as a replacement for Silva. I mean, kind of nobody knows how he's going to do, really. They picked him up on a free from River Plate. I mean, I think a lot of their season, a lot of Frankfurt's season does depend on how he does and whether he can come even close to replacing the goals that he brought in. But he is highly rated, you know, the 25-year-old Argentine from River Plate. He won the Copa Libertadores a couple of years ago with River Plate. So I think he could be an interesting signing on a free as well. A bit of a coup for Frankfurt, but I think he could also go down as a flop as well. So we'll have to see what he kind of comes up with really next season.
Yeah, good stuff. So that's 3 from Mark. So Josh, were any of those your picks, and if you got any different ones?
I mean, like, and it's kind of the obvious one that, and Mark did touch on it. I don't think there's a better deal than Andre Silva. There's not. I don't know. From what I've read, it seemed to be something in his contract as to why the price was that low. I read that something like his agent was supposed to get like 9 million directly if they spent a little bit more, so that Frankfurt just said, all right, well, whatever, we'll put it down to 21. I don't remember. I read something along those lines as to why it was so cheap. So basically trying to screw over Andre Silva's agent in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know 100%. No, I don't know if Mark heard of that story at all as to why it was like that. But that was the reason why it's so low. And because it's so low, nothing touches it. That is a steal for Silva. I mean, with the map, you scored 28 goals. Holland scored less, and Holland's worth 150. Andre Silva's worth 21. It doesn't add up. So yeah, and to go outside the box again, just to kind of focus on maybe the Dortmund side. I'll mention Kobel as well, only because like you guys were talking about earlier, Dortmund has struggled massively when it came to the keeper position, and Kobel maybe wasn't the one that the fans wanted, but he may be at that deal one that they definitely are going to be grateful for, because he seems confident, he seems good, he seems like he can save a penalty, which is something that no Dortmund goalie has done in the better part of 4 years. But it looks like he's got the right attitude and the right confidence to come in here and make this job his own, where Berkey always looked a little shaky, a little inconsistent, and never really got the fans behind him. And because that was such a big backbone to Dortmund's failings, I think it's going to be a good little look there. But for me, it's Silva. I don't know if there's much of a debate.
Yeah, absolutely. Hard to disagree with that. My one hasn't actually been stolen. I'll throw it in there. I think Mitchell Bakker from PSG to Bayer Leverkusen is a very good signing. He played obviously plenty for PSG in the Champions League last season, and he looks like a very good acquisition at left back. So I think that was for around about £6 million pounds, as far as I'm aware. So again, not bad business at all. So that's my 2 pence thrown in. Another question that we'll move on to. a couple of Bayern-related questions, so don't worry, Josh, I'll not come to you on these questions. So I'll throw these over quickly to you, Mark. So one of them is Tolisso leaving the Bundesliga this season? And then the second one, so that was from Jonathan Belwith. So is Tolisso leaving the Bundesliga this season? Then I'll put on the second one onto you as well, Mark, which is from Dave Pearson. Do you see Goretzka leaving Bayern, or do you just think that he's using Man United, let's hope not, as a contract negotiation tactic, much like we saw with Sergio Ramos all those years ago? So basically, are Goretzka and Tolisso going to leave Bayern in this transfer window or future ones?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think with relation to Goretzka, I definitely think there's no chance that he'll be leaving. I mean, I think he's for me, he's like one of the key players for FC Bayern Munich nowadays, and I really don't see the Bayern hierarchy letting him even come close to leaving, to be honest with you. I mean, we know that Bayern are they like to keep the best players, and if Bayern do sell a player, it means that they're very, very much surplus to requirements in most cases. I mean, as we know, Bayern, they've got this kind of tactic where they ask players to wind contracts down like they did, and then they can get a better deal. Obviously, Dortmund know a lot about this as well, with obviously Lewandowski, Goetze, and Hummels over the years, but they don't like to get it done back on them. So I think there's pretty much no chance that Goretzka will leave, personally. I think he's a pivotal part of that FC Bayern Munich midfield. I think he's, for me, he can still get a little bit better as well. I definitely think there's no chance that the Bayern hierarchy will allow him to leave to United. Sorry, Rory, I'm sure you'd like to see him at the club, but yeah, for me, there's no chance. I think in relation to Tolisso, yeah, I think there's more chance that he could potentially leave, because I think obviously he has dropped down the pecking order a little bit in that Bayern Munich midfield. Obviously, from where he was in 2018, he was a first choice World Cup winning midfielder with France. Nowadays, he didn't really play very much for France in the Euros, which might potentially have wanted him to force a move potentially. But I mean, is he likely to leave? I would say no, but I would say there's more chance of him leaving than Goretzka, definitely. But I still think that Bayern will want to keep that bulk in midfield. You know, obviously they're going to be playing Champions League. I don't expect to see Tolisso as a first choice starting midfielder this season, but I mean, for me, it's not likely. Barring a very, very good deal offer from the likes of PSG or from the Premier League, I don't see him leaving personally.
Good stuff. Interesting stuff there. Yeah, I'd be very shocked if both were to leave the club. Quality players. So we'll round off with some more generic Bundesliga transfer-related questions. And these questions are kind of tied together with some of the live chat. So I'll bring it up on screen. So Johnny B has asked, which team has had the worst transfer window? Similarly tied into what Dan Green asked on Twitter. He asked which club's done the best transfer business in your opinions and which done the worst. So we'll start with the worst, as we've got the question up on the screen. And we'll start with you, Josh. So who do you think's not done enough in the window that will either cost them the title or European place, or will mean that they get relegated?
Sounds harsh, but I mean, I think Bayern. I don't know. And for a couple of things. I mean, and this is, again, I mean, I want to see Bayern fall. I feel like this is a good opportunity to do it. But when I'm looking at Bayern going into the season, and as a Dortmund fan, and as a very realistic Dortmund fan, I've never really gone in the last few years with any anticipation of competing. And that includes the 18-19 season. I mean, we came off a poor season. I did not expect us to do what we did. And we're the ones who, I mean, ultimately cost us ourselves the league. But going into this one this year, watching Bayern drop 25 mil on a manager who, again, is, in my opinion, a slightly inferior manager than what they had, seeing all their big players walk out for nothing, not addressing the right back concern, which is, again, similar to Dortmund, a huge one. Pavard is a center back. Buna Sarr is getting reps there, wearing the armband. Bayern fans, I'm seeing them being very angry all over Twitter. And I've actually seen a lot of Bayern fans kind of say similar things as kind of what I'm saying now, is that they haven't done enough. They haven't done enough strengthening. And Upamecano is a great signing, yes, but again, still some question marks. Still very young, and being a young center back isn't always the most ideal thing you need to bring home a championship. And you saw that at Leipzig last year when Dortmund, who had a very interesting season, was able to boss them 3 times throughout the season and beat them comfortably in the Pokal final. So there is reasons there's still question marks around Dortmund. That's the reason that Dortmund fans should feel a little bit optimistic, is because I think Bayern hurt themselves.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, well, You've backed it up, to be fair there, Josh. So interesting thoughts for sure. Mark, give us a different team other than Bayern then, who you think who have done some poor business.
Yeah, I think while I would agree that Bayern did have a pretty poor window, as so far anyway, you never know, they've still got time to bring in a few top signings as of yet. But I think for me, the other team that have kind of let down so far is Borussia Mönchengladbach, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously they've got massive hope with Adi Hütter coming in. I mean, I think there was talk of Andre Silva going there at some point as well, and potentially Kostic and some of the players that had really impressed for Frankfurt last year. But as of yet, the only player that is that they've made the permanent sign of Hannes Wolf, the attacking Austrian midfielder from Leipzig. I mean, obviously, he wasn't even first choice last season. A pretty disappointing season for Gladbach overall. I mean, I think he is a really promising player, and I would expect to see a little bit more of him signed for 10 million euros, obviously, from Leipzig. But I expected to see a few more big money signings from Gladbach, to be honest with you, because, I mean, obviously, Hütter came with really big expectations. Obviously, a brilliant season with Frankfurt before the capitulation at the end of last season. I thought they'd have backed him a little bit more. Obviously, I mean, the advantage for Gladbach, though, is the fact that nobody's left as of yet. I mean, obviously, Thuram, Plea, some of these guys were highly rated, especially at the start of last season. They were being linked with PSG, particularly Thuram. So far, they've managed to keep on to those kind of players. But, I mean, I did expect that they would back Adi Hütter a little bit more, and I think we could potentially see a few more signings come through the door in Gladbach.
Good stuff. Again, for my quick 2 pence, I think two clubs haven't done enough business. One of which is FC Augsburg. They've got Cordova back from Bielefeld, obviously from a loan deal. Could be okay. Dorsch is coming from Ghent. Could be smart business, but they've lost Benej, who has gone back to Gladbach from his loan deal. And Rani Khedira has gone on to Union. So I think they look a bit short, and hence why I predicted I think that they would come 17th, I think. So we'll see if I get that one right. And I'm surprised that Hoffenheim haven't really done much. They've made Sebastian Rudy's loan deal, permanent one, from Schalke. But that says everything you need to with regards to where he's coming from. And then a couple of loanees have gone back to their parent clubs like Sessegnon and Richards. So I think those two look a bit short at the moment. So we've done the worst. Let's quickly move on to the best. Who's done the best business? Josh, who has done the best business so far this season?
I mean, I'm honestly torn. I am. Because I feel like every time that there's a club, and I'm gonna mention two. That has done some really good stuff. There's one thing that makes me think otherwise. And for every reason Mark said earlier as to why Wolfsburg looks so strong, I think they had a great window. They're keeping their players, adding pieces where they needed. But again, the big question mark for me is the manager. And then speaking on to that, the manager they lost headed right on over to Frankfurt. And I think that's a massive upgrade. I mean, because considering that they lost Andy Hütter, who is obviously incredible and did really good things, almost dragged Frankfurt into a Champions League spot. I didn't think they'd be able to replace him anywhere near the quality that they did. But then again, when it comes with that, they lost Andre Silva. But they replaced him with a free signing, which again, good piece of business. But I don't know. I'd probably go Wolfsburg. Frankfurt's got too many question marks about it as I start saying it out loud because the Andre Silva one was only 21 mil. So, but I do think that Frankfurt, from what could have happened, did well to give them a shot still. But yeah, I guess Wolfsburg did the best business. Right,
good stuff. Mark, we'll have to start to speed up slightly because we've probably got another 5 minutes until we have to unfortunately end the show. So very quickly, give us your team who's done the best business.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be FC Union Berlin. I mean, it literally seems as though they've signed a new player every day, doesn't it, Union? They've signed an entire new squad, basically, Union. I mean, obviously, Taiwo Awoniyi is the main signing from Liverpool, who was on loan last season. But they've also brought in the likes of Remy Khedira from Augsburg on a free. I mean, his market value is 5 million euros, and they've got him on a free. I think that's a really good signing. They've got a few other guys on a free, the likes of Kevin Behrens as well, who was a good player for Sandhausen, a goal-scoring midfielder. They've got Volkssammer as well, who did well for Bielefeld. Other money signings they brought in, I can't profess to know too much about him, but Timothy's Puchach from Lech Poznan for €3.5 million. I mean, nobody thought this was possible a couple of years ago for Union Berlin to sign 12 players in the summer, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what an effort for them. They've only lost really Marius Bull to Schalke. I mean, to be honest, he didn't play that much anyway last season, did he? So, I mean, he's not that big of a loss really, but what a season they've had. What an off season they've had. I mean, I expect a really good season from them again this year.
Good stuff. So I'll see if we can sneak in 2 more questions. So I'll do the first to Josh and then the last one to everyone. So this is coming from Ben Morris of Twitter. It's a kind of a double barrel one. So first, what transfer has taken you by surprise, Josh? And then which club has made the most from sales this window? And who has made the most? I think the second one, we can probably say who has made the most from sales. Maybe Stuttgart with the sales of Gonzalez and Kobel. They've not spent much and now they're financially stable from what I know. So that's probably the answer to that one quickly. So Josh, what transfer has caught you by surprise mostly?
Honestly, the biggest one, I don't know if you want to count it. If not, I can do another one. But I mean, Nagelsmann. It took me by a huge surprise when I saw the fees that went with him. Considering that we all, us three, know pretty well how Bundesliga clubs run. Money like that dropped on a manager, very, very, very unheard of. So that one, I think, hands down, as well as the Under Silva low fee, but there was reasoning behind that. Bayern just went out, broke the bank on Nagelsmann, and it took me by surprise.
Yeah, good stuff. And lastly, to finish, from John Fleming, I really like this question. It's not actually transfer related, but we'll answer it anyway. Which team has the best kit this season? There are some beauties and some shockers. So I can't imagine Josh is going to go away from his team, Dortmund. But I'll ask you anyway, Josh. Aside from Dortmund, whose kit looks fresh this season?
I do like Bayern's. I know it's not one that you do, but I do like their kit. I thought it looked fresh, but looking at Dortmund's, I think ours are a little questionable. I mean, to be honest, I don't know what you guys think. I'd like to hear you guys' opinion quickly on Dortmund's kits, but a lot of the fan base really didn't like them. I like clean kits. I like something that you know exactly what you're getting. Sometimes the odd one, like for example, Madrid's green ones, you know, Juve's old green ones. I like something like that. But ours with the sleeves, it angered a lot of Dortmund fans. They didn't like it, so I'd like to say it's a soft 7 out of 10 for Dortmund. But I do like Bayern's. I always like Wolfsburg's. My favorite color is green, so you know.
Yeah.
But what about you guys?
They're always solid. Yeah. I'll just throw mine in there. I think Firth's kit or home kit is class. I love it. With the leaves on it, the clover leaves. I think that's really nice. And I think the Wolfsburg blue alternate kit looks unreal. I love that. So they're my favourites. Mark, do you want to finish off with yours?
Yeah, I always like Bayer Leverkusen's kits, actually. I like the black and red. I really think that's a cool kit. I remember even back to like the early 2000s when Leverkusen kind of first came onto the scene in the Champions League. I always loved their kits. I mean, they've not really alternated the design much. I think, Rory, you've got one of those numbers, right? You've got a Leverkusen one. I think it's a really, really nice kit, that. And obviously Paderborn as well, yeah, my beloved kind of new club Paderborn. But obviously they're not in the Bundesliga, in the Zweite Bundesliga yet, but yeah.
Good stuff. I also think Freiburg is actually quite fresh. I have to say they've done well with their kits. But anyway, we've pretty much run out of time. There was a question that just came in from Jordan Hunt with regards to UK broadcaster news on the Bundesliga. I don't think there's been anything just yet. I've not seen anything. As the only UK-based one, I'm the only one it really affects. I do hope that either BT Sport pick it up or maybe Sky Sports do. I think an announcement is coming soon, though. But that brings the show to a close. So many thanks to Josh for joining us this evening, or well, afternoon, of course, for you. So giving up your time, Josh. So really appreciate that. You've been fantastic as always, and obviously giving us a nice in-depth look into the Dortmund business so far. And obviously we wish Dortmund all the very best this season, and of course for your channel to keep on thriving as you go along. So yeah, many thanks, Josh.
Appreciate it, guys. Always enjoy coming on here and getting your guys' opinion as well. It's a lot of fun, and I think all three of us are probably looking forward to a very hopefully unpredictable Bundesliga season. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully we do it again.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, over to you, Mark, to finish up.
Yeah, so obviously, if you want to check out more of our stuff, then check out our Twitter, which is @OverTheBarFB. You can see pretty much everything that we do. Obviously, check out as well our League One preview show, which is actually starting in about 10 minutes time, which is why we have to kind of finish a little bit early. But yeah, check that out as well. I know a lot of you guys will stay. A lot of our kind of live chat guys will stay on for that, which is great. Also, check out our kind of main piece, which is otbfootball.net. That's like the centerpiece of our stuff. You can see links to our YouTube channel, which is, as you can see there, which obviously if you're watching this, then you must already be a subscriber. So obviously remember to hit subscribe, because that helps us just to kind of give more and more time and kind of produce more and more content for you guys. So yeah, thanks again to Josh for joining us, and we hope to see you again another time soon. But other than that, yeah, see you next time.
Cheers all.